This is the Inclusion Conversation. I'm your host, Grace Young Foster, founder and CEO of the Inclusion Initiative. I'm an adoptee, I'm a foster care alum, and I'm passionate about elevating our communities. It's time we're included and visible in the conversations about work, careers, and just life. Let's be visible and let's be loud. Join me now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Inclusion Conversation. Today is a little bit of a solo episode with me, your host, Grace Young Foster, and the founder and CEO of the Inclusion Initiative. So May is a really interesting month, and I wanted to kick us off this month with a solo episode because there's so many observations in the month of May that intersect with me as an adoptee, a foster, an Asian American. And I just wanted to talk about some of the perspectives that I have that, some of my fellow adoptees and fosters share during this month. And intersectionality is it's a huge part of who we are. It's a huge part of how we experience the world, especially as people who don't necessarily belong. We're always from one world placed into another. And so that just brings up a lot of complexity and a lot of crossing of identity and experiencing of multiple identities all at once. And May is a really good example of that. And so just wanted to highlight some things for you. And as always, appreciate that you're here, appreciate that you're listening, and that you really care about our community, both as a member or if you're an ally. Or if you're here for the first time and you're just trying to learn and you're trying to listen and you're trying to understand just the really complex adult experiences that we go through, especially as professionals, as people building our families, as contributing members of society. We're really happy that you're here and listening and learning. So thank you. May is a month full of observations that are important to me personally. And for those of you that don't know, right, the Inclusion Initiative is a platform and a network that supports adoptees and fosters and elevates us in the world of work and also closes opportunity gaps and wealth gaps for our community. The Inclusion Initiative is a super unique platform that's full of so many different people. Like the diversity within the adoptee and foster community is pretty huge and expansive. And so we've got people of color, we have people who are immigrants, we have people who are LGBTQIA, we have people who are of different generations, from Gen Z to boomers. We have parents and mothers and fathers, and we have, of course, Foster Alumni and adoptees. We have allies in the community who are professionals in the system or adjacent to the system, and professionals who serve adoptees and fosters as well. And we have people who have adopted and who have fostered as allies to us. And so, the month of May, there's a few of the critical communities, right, that are observed in May that I want to talk about. This Sunday is Mother's Day. We have AANHPI Heritage Month, so Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We've got Foster Care Awareness Month. A lot of people don't hear about this very much. And this month is also Mental Health Awareness Month. And so really trying to show, right, how all of these issue areas or these communities can really impact like just one person. And I will say that these four, right, communities and topic areas that are observed in the month of May, they all impact me personally. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit. But before we dive into each of these, just want to share some really exciting things to look forward to this month. And so we've got some awesome podcast guests. Yay! We're going to release multiple episodes for a couple of the weeks during this month. And so you can be on the lookout for a lot more podcast content in May. So we've got some really like trailblazing, but also inspiration of people who are just really grounded, right, in the work in serving our communities coming up on the podcast. So Asian American adoptees like Patrick Armstrong, a lot of you will know who he is. So it's really cool that he came on our show. And we have other Asian adoptees that will also be joining us. We have Foster alums joining us. We also have people who are involved, right, in the foster care system. So not just alums, but people who work to make the system and the experience the best that they can with their limited power and their limited resources. So we have folks like that coming on to the podcast to just share what it's like from like the provider side and the social work side. We have an adoptive parent coming on to talk with us. And so that'll be an interesting perspective. And so that's just some of the upcoming content you can expect from our podcast this month. So I hope you're able to tune in and really get a lot out of just what all of our guests have to share. It's going to be awesome. So, okay. There's so much to say, but so little time. And starting with Mother's Day and why being a parent, for me, especially being a mom, I identify as a mom, why it's so complex as an adoptee and as a foster. And for those of you that know a bit about my story, you know that I'm both. I am adopted, but I also experienced a broken adoption, which placed me into the foster care system at an older age. I was about 7 years old when that happened. And so, you know, I have that combination of experience of really being both in a significant way. And so Mother's Day, typically it brings really positive feelings and joy. And, you know, it's something that a lot of people look forward to. And I do recognize, right, there's a lot of people who are also not adoptees, who are not fosters, that have super complex relationships with their family, with their parents, super complex experiences with, you know, mothers and motherhood. So we're not the only community. And so I just want to recognize that. But from my lens as an adoptee and foster, Mother's Day is super hard. It's a really hard day. It's hard because I feel like I have to put on a mask a lot, pretend a lot, keep a lot of things unsaid during this day. And not as much these last couple of years, but more so just the many years leading up to this point in my life. I am a mom of a 3-year-old, and For those of you who don't know, I'll be welcoming a second one this summer. And so my partner and I are super excited. Our daughter is super excited. It's a baby we've wanted for a long time. So it's pretty wild that the baby's going to finally be here. The whole experience of becoming a mom was just, it was all the things. It was wonderful. It was scary. It was hard. It was triggering. It was healing. It was a lot. And, for me, I think one of the biggest factors that make it super hard was just the multiple experiences of relinquishment that I had. So first from my birth and first family / mom, to, being placed into all these homes, to, having really just like a broken relationship with the family that actually ended up adopting me. I've not had like a forever mother figure in my life, if that makes sense. I've had a lot of people who have tried to sub in some way, they've tried to be helpful or have tried in their own way to somehow fill a small piece of that gap, but it's never never the same. And it's really hard to come into motherhood, and it's really hard, right, to like every year be reminded on Mother's Day about this particular gap in my life. And I also want to say and recognize, right, I am an incredibly fortunate and privileged person. I get to be a mom. I got to choose to be a mom. I have the resources to be a mom. I have a partner who helps me be a great mom. It is something that, again, I've chosen, and I'm super grateful for that. But I did not choose to be relinquished. I didn't choose to not have a mom growing up. I didn't choose to have the people who were supposed to be my mom to like disappoint me time and time again. I had abusive moms. And it's just a hard holiday. And so it's a hard day to navigate. It's become better these last couple of years because I've become more authentic and true to myself. I have been able to show up how I want to show up for my daughter as a mom. So there's been like healing that's happened too, which is great. And it's not as dark of a day for me as it used to be. But I think I want our society as a whole to stop putting this day on a pedestal and really expecting everyone to have like this happy experience on this day, and not really giving space or like honoring, right, that can be a super hard day for a lot of people with a lot of different experiences. A lot of us who are adoptees who haven't had great experiences, or especially fosters, right, that were put in home after home after home, and were never adopted or aged out. Motherhood was not modeled for us in the way that it should have, or just not modeled, period. And this can be really, really challenging and difficult without it modeled, right? And without like the memories and the experiences of having a mom there, like just having someone you can count on and depend on, where it's an unconditional type of love. Gosh, it's like super special. And I feel really lucky that I get to give that to my kid, and soon my second kid. But I never had that modeled for me. It is like both a hurt and a joy, right? That I get to build that kind of relationship and those memories with my own kid. But those triggers are really real. but at the same time, I get to heal in real time, doing these intentional things with my kid, the intentional modeling of motherhood, of parenthood. And so, it's really scary to become a parent and become a mom, especially for the first time. When you have an experience like mine. And I think one of my biggest fears, right, is that I'm just not going to be enough for her, for them. Me, myself will never be enough, right? Because I'm too broken or whatever it is. And that's just really scary when you think about, this child is going to live beyond you. From the point you have a kid, that's like you're going to be a parent forever, for the rest of your life. And so it's kind of scary thinking about like, you're not going to be enough, right? That's a long time to not be enough. That's not real, right? Of course you're enough. But when you're an adoptee and foster and you've had these really hard, complex experiences and you haven't had this modeled for you, it's a real and valid concern and fear. Another thing that brings complexity for me on Mother's Day is now being able to look at my daughter and see myself reflected physically. Like, it's weird. I've never had someone biologically related to me in my life that I can remember. And so she's the first person that has some of my physical traits. She obviously shares genes with her dad. And she really is like a combo of us. It's really cool. But there are those Asian Korean traits that really stand out. And the physical body traits, like my daughter has my legs. It's I know it's like silly to say, but it's really special. It's really cool to see that, because it's like, oh yeah, like those are my legs. Like that's my daughter. It's just cool. But at the same time, it's like, whoa, that person looks like me. That's weird because I've never seen that before. I don't have any photos or anything of my biological parents or family members, so I have no idea, right, what I look like, where I come from, all of that. She also reflects pieces of my personality. Like, I see bits of like how I am coming out in the way that she is as well. So some of it is goofy things, or some of it are just like looks that she'll give, like some of the sassiness, which I love. Not always in the moment, but I love. And so just seeing like how that's biologically inherited is, again, it's mind blowing to me, because I just haven't seen it for me before. So it's a really cool experience, but it's complicated. It brings up a lot of complicated feelings. But for Mother's Day, my ask is that people just be aware that this is how it can really impact someone around you, especially if they have this lived experience, or if right, they have complex relationships with their families. Even if you don't know, don't assume. One thing you can ask really is like, how do you observe this day? Or how do you, what would you like today? Like, what would be meaningful for you today? Instead of being like, oh, it's Mom's Day, or what are you doing with the kids? And like, is your mom around? Or are you spending time with your, don't ask stuff like that. Just don't assume that they have this family that they can lean on and they can be around. So that's really helpful. And if they share something that is heavier and a little sad, don't run away from it, right? Just give them the space and listen, and just say, I'm sorry, and I hear you, and that must be hard. That's all you have to do. It's quite simple, actually, but it means a lot. It means a lot to people that when they feel like they have to hide that part, of their life or their or their experience or their feelings when it comes to this day. So thanks for listening about that. All right. So now let's jump into Foster Care Awareness Month, which is also in May. And, my experience of being both is why I built the Inclusion Initiative to include both communities, because we really are a part of the same, like, larger ecosystem of people that have been impacted or have experienced child welfare. And the Inclusion Initiative is really meant to be a bridge between the two communities, to be inclusive, but also to help us be in community together to help each other. And for folks who may be less familiar with the foster care system, just a couple of stats for you, right? About 400,000 youth are in foster care each year. That's approximate. It changes every single year. And some will say 360,000. That's every single year. There's that many youth in foster care in the United States. There's an estimated over 15 million foster alumni in the United States. That is huge. That's a big number. So, it's just a huge community that, again, right, there's not a ton of resources for alumni. There's never enough for youth either. But when people become alumni, when they become independent adults, like independent out of the institutions or out of the homes that they were placed in, there are very few resources or organizations that really serve adults, an ongoing adulthood, not just 18 to 24, but I'm talking about, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. We still carry this lived experience. We still are foster alumni, no matter how old we become. Anyone around you, at work, at school, your neighbor, they could be a foster alum, and you just don't know. The White House, this current administration, they did release a statement proclaiming the month of May as Foster Care Awareness Month and what they want people to do about it. And I will say that it is mostly centered on parents who are fostering the kids and families that are taking in foster youth. Yeah, it's an important community of people. Yeah, it's important that there are homes available and opportunities for foster youth to not have to live in institutions, and also to not be bounced around from home to home. But what is always concerning for our community, both adoptees and foster communities, is that we are still not centered in these stories. We're not centered in these policies. We're not centered in these narratives. It's always emphasized, right, that we are being taken care of / saved / the problem, and the parents are the solution, the saviors. We want that narrative to shift into thinking more about, right, how the actions of policies, how the actions of parents, how the actions of the system are really impacting the youth, because it impacts us forever. We have to live through it. And we have to live through all these decisions that are made on our behalf without our consent, without our input as kids. It really sets a trajectory for our immediate future and sometimes long-term future. And so I want to make sure that fosters, the youth, current youth, but also the foster alumni, are actually the center of the conversation. It's so important for us to continue to push and advocate and share our stories so that we can shift that narrative, that centering narrative, to the people that have to go through this system as people who, didn't have a choice or say in the matter. An action you can take, right, is just doing that yourself in your own community or in your workplace, or wherever you might have an opportunity to really hear a foster's story and be able to make space for them to tell their story if they want to share it, and allow them to do so in the way that they want to do it, that honors their experience. And, just listen, just be quiet, listen, validate. Like, that's a really simple step you can do this month for Foster Care Awareness Month. Okay, then we've got AANHPI Heritage Month, so Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. This is a significant month for me personally because I am Asian American, and being a Korean adoptee who was transnationally adopted, but also transracially adopted and placed into homes. Being Asian has always been like a big disconnect for me. If you follow me, my writing, my work, you can read a lot of my content about this, about how I just have always felt in this in-between space, right? Not quite Asian enough, definitely not white, not accepted into either community, not fully, not completely. And then myself, right, I struggled a lot with just even accepting myself and accepting my Asian identity, and beyond accepting, right, I couldn't even be proud of it because I couldn't accept it. And growing up the way I did in these white communities and white homes, I wanted to be seen as white because that's what like American was. That's what I was told, right? And I was always made an outsider, definitely bullied, definitely experienced racism, but it just made me want to be that much more white. And so this month has become incredibly significant to me as I have learned to accept myself and love myself and embrace my Asian identity, but also like I have more than ever just wanted to learn so much more about what it means to be Korean, what Korea is and looks like, what's happening there, the culture, the food, all of that. Like it just these last like 4 years, it's been a big part of my life journey, as well as my professional one. And so this month is really significant for me. And I just wanted to highlight some statistics about Asian adoptees. And so there's approximately about 250 or so known Asian adoptees in the United States. So the largest group are Korean adoptees. We can dive into that history at a later time. Too long for this episode, but there's like, I believe there's about 115, 120,000 Korean adoptees. Then there's a nearly 100,000 from China. So they make up a significant portion of the population here as well. There are also approximate 10,000 Vietnamese adoptee, about 10,000 Indian adoptees, so South Asian, about 7,000 Filipino adoptees, and almost 3,000 Taiwanese adoptees. Also, there's an estimated 2,000 Thai adoptees, and then just under 1,000 from Hong Kong and Japan. That's a lot of different Asian ethnicities. So the diaspora is quite vast in terms of the Asian community in the adoptee space. I tried to find statistics on Asian foster youth. There's not a lot. Like we're just like not really tracked, I guess. But yeah, all these stats I'll drop in the show notes. So part of how we are celebrating AANHPI Heritage Month here on this podcast. Again, we're having Asian adoptee guests. And, we'll just highlight some of these stats in our content throughout the month. So just stay tuned for that. And then finally, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental health is such a critical topic for people who have lived experience as adoptees and fosters. There's, earlier in this episode, we talked a lot about just motherhood, those triggers, racism that happens for transracial adoptees, adoptees of color, or foster youth and foster alum who are people of color. And so things like that, on top of just all of the trauma of the relinquishments and the placements, and whether it's good placement or bad placement, right? There's always trauma that occurs from that. And so all of these different things, the not feeling like you belong anywhere, the confusion of identity, the confusion of, who am I question. There's a lot of that happens to adoptees and fosters. And so, mental health support and getting the resources that you need is so critical. So I did just wanted to call that out as an observation that's important in the month of May. And to, just reiterate and encourage you to get the help you need. Don't be afraid to seek it out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for resources. Don't be afraid to ask and reach out to people that might be able to help you or point you in the right direction. It's so hard, right, to say, I need help in this way. So I'm not mitigating that, that it's hard, and it definitely takes a lot of courage and bravery to say that. I will say for myself, it took decades. Not proud of it. And I really wish I would have done something sooner. So I just really want to encourage you, if you do need those resources, even if you don't think you need them, it helps to talk to somebody anyway. And you might be surprised by what you find and what you end up realizing about yourself. And so make sure you're seeking out professional help and resources, as well as peer and mentor help and resources. There are trained professionals for a reason. So it's very, very important that you also rely on their knowledge and expertise, and their trained practices, and their approved, right, industry approved practices when seeking out mental health support. But if you do just one thing, is I hope that you say something to somebody and just ask for help or ask to talk to them. So please just take that first step. Okay. Well, adoptees, fosters, allies, it's been great to chat with you and just kind of dump a lot of my thoughts. And I hope it's given you some things to think about as we head into, well, we're in the month of May, but as we move through the month of May. And thanks again for following us, for supporting the Inclusion Initiative. And we can't wait to drop our next episode, so stay tuned. Everything that we've talked about will be in the show notes, and we'll see you next time. Bye. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, share, and follow us. Check out our show notes to know where to find us on social, and our website is theinclusioninitiative.com. If you're an adoptee of color or a foster care alum, and you want to join our professional community, it's free, by the way, hit me up via DM, or you can find our email in the show notes. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.